Let's explore the workspace and some of the functions and tools in Adobe Illustrator. I've got a new document set up right here, and we're going to look at some of the basic ways in which we make shapes and lines, work with selections and color. If you'd like to follow along, I've made a 4" by 4" web document. It's got a white background. This is the artboard that we're going to look at. You can move the artboard in and out by using your Command plus and Command minus key. Command minus to make it smaller, Command plus to make it bigger. And at any time if you go Command 0, that resets it to fill the workspace. In this intro video here, we're just going to be dealing with some of the basic tools that are in this toolbar right here on the left. This is called the toolbar. These first few tools up here deal with selections. We have the selection tool, the direct selection tool, or what I sometimes called big selection and the small selection tool, magic wand selection, marquee selection. Then we get into some tools here that deal with content creation. So we've got the pen tool and the curvature pen tool, text tool obviously for making text, line tool or curved line or arc and things like that, the shape tool for rectangles and polygons and ellipses and things like that. The brush tool is probably the most basic tool of all of them. You just click on that. You can set your sizes and things like that in your brush panel, but the brush is a freehand drawing tool. And so you click on it and you can just start drawing. Something like that. You decide you don't like that. I don't really like it. We can easily get rid of that. We simply go to our selection tool, click and drag over everything to select it, hit delete, and it's gone. We also have an eraser tool over here, which, you guessed it, it erases or it gets rid of content. Quickly make a couple of shapes here and overlap them. There's a rectangle. Here's a little star. Put a little ellipse on there as well. And so if you've got some kind of content like that and you want to now start to erase parts of it, you can do that with the eraser tool. Simply click. You can adjust the size or the width of the eraser, and then you just essentially go in and click and drag, and you start to get rid of things. You get rid of all of it if you want, and it will try to remake the paths as you go and reform. So you can get some interesting negative types of outlines. All right, let's get rid of that. Again, we can just select everything and delete it. Let's work with a little bit more structured shape here. Let's make a circle. Okay, so to make a circle, I'm going to go to the shape tool here, and I'll select an ellipse. Now, if I just draw like this, I can make a circle if my hand is really steady and I make the width and the height the same. If I want to make it an exact circle or constrain it, if I hold down the Shift key while I draw, that constrains the diameter so that it's the same at all points. If I want to center this or draw it from the center out, I hold down, I select my point where I want to start here at 2 inches on each place. I select the center and the Option key together, and it will draw out from the center. Okay, so I'll make myself a nice big circle, something like that. Now if I want to change the color or the outline, which is called the stroke, on this circle, I can go over here to where it has stroke. If that's not visible for you, you can go to your window menu and click on appearance or stroke or something like that, or the properties, and the properties will give you some of these options as well. So if I can make the stroke bigger, thicker, or I can take it away entirely and stick it into that is 0, or I can also get rid of it here in this color picker. And if I click the one on the lower right is for the stroke, the one on the upper left is for the fill. I can toggle those back and forth, or I can just select from these options in here. So if I want no stroke, I click there. Now if I want fill, what I want to do is click on that fill square to bring it to the front, and then now I can adjust this in the appearance, or I can simply double click here and a color picker comes up, and I can work with RGB color, CMYK, web colors, HSB, which is hue, saturation, and brightness, or I can go to some pre-selected colors. Let's try that. We're going to go to some color swatches, and I'm just going to pick like, let's say a solid yellow, and that's what that looks like. You can also put things besides solid colors inside your objects. You can put patterns in there, you can put other pictures. Let's try something called a gradient. A gradient is where it gradually changes from one color to the next based on values that you set. To do a gradient, I'm going to click here on the gradient tool. And what will come up is a little panel here. And we're going to select a type of gradient. You've got choices of linear or radial. A linear goes from one side to the next. A radial comes out from the center. So let's try a radial on this. Now we've got two little ink wells, look like ink wells here, and these are the sliders where we will put our values in for what color we want, and then also where we want them to start and end. And you can add additional sliders if you want to kind of have even more control over how these work. So let's click on the first one here, and the second little panel comes up, and this is working just in black. I want some color, so I'm going to look here under the options. This is always a good place to look to see what more stuff you have. We'll go to RGB, and I'm going to select yellow. And to get yellow in RGB is a matter of full red and full green, and so I get yellow for that one. All right, now to do the other one, I'm going to double click on the one that's in black. And again, I will look at this. Okay, and I'm going to, let's get something a little darker here. Maybe even a tiny bit darker than that. Something like that. I can move these sliders. I can pick different values, but that's good enough for this exercise right here. Now, if I want to adjust kind of how this gradient appears, I can move these sliders here, or I can also move them back here at the original panel. So if I'd like the dark area to maybe consume a little bit more of the space, I just click here on the darker one. I slide it this way, and it's going to become a little bit bigger. Okay. Or conversely, if I want the yellow area to kind of full out, and what this does is, if I bring both of them in, it kind of compresses the area in which the gradient occurs to be in a shorter width. I can also adjust here from the middle as well. All right, so that's how a gradient works. If I want to go back and create more shapes, what I'm going to do first, I'm going to deselect this, and I'm going to go back to this color toggle and click on my default values so that a gradient's not going to try to force its way into the next shape that I make. So let's make another shape here. Let's make another ellipse. So with the ellipse tool selected, I'm going to click and drag. This time I'm not going to constrain it to be a full circle. I'm just going to make kind of an oblong ellipse there. And using my arrow keys, move it around if I want to. Something like that. Okay, so now if I want to change the color of that, I select it, and I'm going to get rid of the stroke. There we go. Now we've got a white ellipse. And then to put some color inside the fill, click on the fill to bring it forward. Double click it. Maybe let's go to our swatches, and let's get kind of a nice medium or dark brown there. Something like that. If I have more of these that I want to make, I don't have to redraw each one, especially if they're the kind of the same shape. I can duplicate them. So with it selected, I can duplicate them by simply going to my edit menu like you would with anything else and do edit, copy, and then edit, paste, which is Command C followed by Command V on a Mac, and then drag it wherever I want it to be. Or another way to do this, select it. If I hold down the Option key, with my direct selection tool, if I hold down the Option and then click and drag, that will also duplicate an item. And this gives you the benefit of also being able to stay on the same lines or the same plane if you have your Smart Guides turned on. And your Smart Guides are up here on your View menu and Smart Guides. It's usually a good idea to keep those on because that will help you get objects aligned. All right, now let's look at the pen tool and see how it works. So I'm going to deselect this other eye. I think you know where this is going now. The pen tool lays down points in creating vector paths, which you then may close up to make a shape, or you can leave the path open. So the pen tool kind of works like this. I click and it creates a point, and then I let go. And then it's going to draw a straight line to the next place that I want to make a click. And so I click, and then I can go click again, and it's going to try to fill this in as a path. So this is a way of making like a kind of a polygon type object. And it wants to return to the original starting point. So when I come back to the original starting point, you'll see that this little point turns into a circle, and that means it's ready to close the path. And now I've got an object that has a closed path. All right, let's get rid of that, and let's see if we can put that into practice here. So with our pen tool selected, and I might bump up the stroke a little bit so we can see it. We've got a nice brown stroke. We're going to go out here, maybe about this far, click and make a point. Then we're going to go to the same size, same place on the other side, click and hold, and then let's start to make a smile. And depending on how we pull these out, we can get a smile that looks something like that. Okay. Now you can see the pen tool still wants to make another shape. It really likes to keep working. So an easy way to just get rid of that is to go up here to your selection tool, click, and then you're finished with it. So we've covered shapes and lines and the pen tool and selections and color just a little bit in this intro. Let's put a couple finishing touches on this emoji that we've got here. So I'd like to maybe make it a little bit thicker in here. That might look a little bit more like an emoji, don't you think? So let's select it with our selection tool. And there's another tool here in Illustrator called the width tool. And the width tool is up here. It's a couple items up from the shape builder. If you don't see it on yours, hold down on that particular tool and you can see a bunch of other options under here. But the width tool should be the default. And on the width tool, with your object selected, you can pick a point here. I'm going to go right to the middle where the intersection is. And you can see when I hover it over, it turns to a little plus sign beside that, beside the arrow. And if I just click and hold and then drag, what it does is from that point, it's going to thicken or widen the stroke. And so that starts to look a little bit more like the smile on a real emoji. All right, let's deselect that. Let's put one more little touch on here. Let's put a little crease on the smile. So let's go back to our pen tool. Okay, and with our pen tool, what we're going to do is click and release, and then go out a little ways, and then click and hold. And we'll put a little curve on there to kind of make a crease, something like that, whatever you like. Go up here, hit our selection tool to deselect the rest of the pen path, and let's see if we can move that into place a little bit. What we want to do with our selection tool is get right here on the path itself. And then we can click and we can drag and we can move that into position. Okay, we got it pretty close there. And then what we'll do one more time is go back to our width tool. And then we'll come right here to this first anchor, and where it has the plus sign come up, and we'll click and we're going to drag and we're going to just widen that a little bit. All right, so let's deselect it and see what it looks like. Not bad. Now we need one on the other side. So we will select it. We will duplicate it. Maybe this time I'll do copy, Command C, and then paste Command V, and then grab that guy, bring him here where he's pretty close, and then now what we're going to do is flip it. Okay, to flip it, while we have it selected, we're going to go up to the Object menu and go under Transform and Reflect. And we've got two options here, horizontal and vertical. You can try one, and if it doesn't work, try the other. In this case, it's a vertical reflect that we want to do. And so we click OK, and that turns it around. Now with our selection tool, get right on that path and bring it right into place. And we're done. So this video has shown you a little bit about the Illustrator workspace, some of its tools, how to make shapes, deal with color, and the pen tool a little bit. Have some fun with it. It's quite a powerful program.